The coal miner's daughter, Loretta Lynn, and her ranch in Hurricane Mills, Tennessee, a great place to see the history of country music and what Southern living was like a generation ago. Besides her mansion and a beautiful... Oh, wait a minute, they're building a motocross track here? Yes, that's right. For nearly 35 years they've been building this. And it's the largest amateur motocross race in the world, the Rocky Mountain ATV AMA Amateur National Motocross Championships, presented by Amsoil. This is where the best of motocross's future come to race and get discovered, and maybe become the Ryan Villapoto, Ryan Dungey, Ricky Carmichael, James Stewart types of the future, male and female, old and young. They're all amateurs. They're all hoping to capture glory in the largest race of its kind. Now, last week we focused on the Open Pro Sport event. RJ Hampshire dominated that. Aaron Plessinger and other big stars there showed what they're capable of. And we're going to put the focus this week onto the younger and older classes to give you the full spectrum of what racing at Loretta's is all about. And we'll start with the youngest and smallest class of all. You've probably never seen anything quite like this. It's our 4 to 6-year-old shaft drive 50cc class. These are Yamaha PW50s. The bikes are pretty much unchanged since they started racing here at the ranch in 1982. They changed the graphics and the colors every couple years. These are the perfect beginner machine, but you can already see the riding style. Look at this. Riders up on the pegs, wide open, a little bit of roost coming off the rear tires. Although these may be beginner riders and beginner bikes, the one thing you have to keep in mind, every class here at the ranch has to qualify. There'll be an area qualifier. If you finish near the top 5 there, you go to a regional championship, do it again, you qualify to be on the 40-rider gate in this division. Same rules for all the other classes as well. The number 4, Aiden Eiler, started the week off with a second-place finish in his first moto. Every class out here races 3 times. Lucas Amos here out of Georgia on the number 79 would roll to victory in the first moto. So Amos trying to establish himself maybe as a Supercross champion in about 20 years' time. But here in Moto 2, he goes down while battling with LeMay Rivera. Rivera would go on to take the lead and the moto win, but he's already out of title contention. He had troubles of his own in the first moto and would finish up in 28th. Now, also what you notice in this class, these bikes are so silent you can actually hear the live track announcers, and you can usually hear mom and dad on the side of the track screaming advice to the riders, and invariably that advice is go, go, go. That's about it for strategy when you're 4 to 6 years old. Here you see Amos trying to recover from his spill, and it would come down to consistency in this class with him getting a first in the first moto and a 9th in Moto 2 at the crash, and Rivera getting a 28th and a first in the 2 motos. It opens the door for Eiler here on the number 4, who has a second in each of those first 2 motos to potentially win the championship. See these other riders battling it out here. Tucker Haddock, Tucker Harkins, and Jackson McWhorter all having a fight. In the end, Aiden Eiler's 2.22 scores would be enough to lift that number 1 plate. That's as big as his head. The youngest class has been crowned. We move to the special limited class. This is just 1 notch quicker, same age group, 4 to 6, but these KTM bikes can absolutely haul. And in this case, it's haul the money, because Jace Cash Dollar, yes, that's his name, grabs the Bell Helmets Whole Shot Award in this first moto. Now watch on the right of your screen to 38, Wyatt McGrath battling with Austin Schaefer for the number 1 spot. They're out on the track at the same time as those PW riders, but Schaefer runs into trouble, goes off the side of the track. I don't know if he had bike problems or what it is, but he would go from leading to finishing the moto in 25th. We don't always get the most hard-hitting, revealing interviews from the riders that are 6 years old. From there, McGrath would keep it pinned. He'd win the first moto and then sweep the final 2 as well. That makes the math easy. Even if you're a 6-year-old, win all the motos, you're going to hoist the number 1 plate. So the kid, who shares the same last name as the king of Supercross, Jeremy McGrath, generates a similar result. Racer TV is brought to you by Rocky Mountain ATV MC and by Amsoil. Folks, welcome back to exclusive coverage of the 33rd Annual Rocky Mountain ATV MC AMA Amateur National Motocross Championships from Loretta Lynn Ranch. Jason Wygant, your host. This is Franklin Nogueras, going to give you your GoPro onboard and show you what it's like to actually race on this track. This is the Open Pro Sport class, so probably the fastest riders, and they're on the fastest motorcycles, the big 450cc bikes, a big change from the 50cc classes we were watching before we went to break. Nogueras out of the Dominican Republic. Like many at his level, racing in his final amateur event, he will turn pro and start racing in the Pro National Tour as soon as this event is over. It's the famous 10 Commandments section here. 10 completely unevenly spaced whoops. Very hard to get a rhythm through there. And what every rider says, be it up front in the fastest class like Franklin Nogueras here with the GoPro, or be it a rider in the 50 years of age plus class who's battling for a position inside the top 30, there's always riders to duel with when you have the best of the best. And also, this track gets rough and rutted in ways unlike most tracks that amateurs race on frequently. That's because they put so much sand down in this track, it makes it a lot softer, especially these beach turns here. And also you have so many riders pumping out so many laps. Nearly 1,400 riders will compete throughout the week. And there are non-stop motos, basically from 7:30 in the morning till 7:30 in the evening. Starting from Tuesday, reaching all the way to Saturday, and under the bright sunshine and heat and humidity of Tennessee in August. Add that all up, and it's a physical test unlike any other, and the motos last for a full 20 minutes, which is longer than any other amateur race, and you have to do it 3 times throughout the week in your class. You've got to be consistent off the start, have good luck as far as your equipment is concerned, and then go out and be fast enough to beat the best in the nation in your racing division. Look at the ruts in the corner. Guys are down in these tight turns. The track looks easy because it doesn't have a lot of elevation change, but it gets so rough, things change in a hurry. As far as this Open Pro Sport class is concerned, when you don't have the helmet cam on, well, the rider you need to see is the 22 of R.J. Hampshire. He absolutely dominated this one and then won the 250A class, also perhaps the most stacked class of the week. He won all 6 of his motos, 3 for 3 in each class. He wins the coveted AMA Horizon Award. The young man out of Florida now headed for the pro ranks with a factory Geico Honda ride. Now we switch to the women's class, which year after year provides the best racing. Mackenzie Tricker on the number 1 wants to win the title for the 2nd year in a row. Young lady out of Australia. Caitlin Moreau was second to her last year and wants nothing more than to take that number 1 plate away. It has been on her list for the last 51 weeks. There's Moreau there in the 65. Started second behind Tricker in the first moto and started to close the gap. Now, there's a great tradition of rivalries for the women's class championship here. Tricker and Moreau, the latest in a long line. Jessica Patterson, Tara Geiger, Sarah Whitmore used to battle for the championships here. Way back in the day, you had Lisa Aiken-Wagner and Mercedes Gonzalez. And perhaps the future star you just saw right there is Hannah Hodges. She would win in the girls division and competed up front against the older women who are on full-size bikes. She racing a 105cc Supermini. Here's the checkered flag of Moto 1 coming out, and close. Look at Moreau make a last-ditch effort. Tricker would hold on for the Moto win by about a quarter of a second. Then Tricker out front again on a Rock River Yamaha in Moto number 2. But remember what we said earlier during the GoPro helmet cam footage. You've got to be consistent. Tricker would twist her knee in one of those ruts, and suddenly Moreau would charge past her, picking up where she left off speed-wise from Moto 1, and take the lead. The second Moto last year was the pivotal one. Tricker got the first 2 Moto wins and didn't need to beat Moreau in Moto 3 to take the title. This time Moreau's going to get the second Moto win, setting up a tie going into the third Moto, and then heartbreak. Moreau would crash right off the start of the third Moto and break her leg. She would be unable to finish. Tricker, damaged knee and all, would claim the title. Racer TV is brought to you by Rocky Mountain ATV MC and by Amsoil. Fans jam to the fence here to watch what might be the most stacked talent of any class here at the ranch this year. Even the factory scouts are on the sidelines to watch it as well. It's 250A. We mentioned R.J. Hampshire's performance earlier in Open Pro Sport. You've got Aaron Plessinger there on the right. There's Hampshire with his dad at the left. You also got to watch for riders like Zach Cummins, Luke Rensland, Jordan Smith, Nick Gaines. This is where the big hitters choose to race this year, 250A. Hampshire was nails off the start all week. This time, though, he had a big challenge from the number 3 of Luke Rensland. Now, Rensland won a championship here at Loretta's last year, but didn't get the factory pro ride he was hoping for. So took a big risk and came back to the amateur ranks this year, hoping to secure another title at Loretta's, and this time get that elusive factory ride. And everyone knows what they need to do now, show what they can do against Hampshire. Here's the 73 of Plessinger, last year's star in the intermediate division, trying to make it happen one notch above here in the expert class. And Plessinger and Rensland would keep the heat on Hampshire, who's running for history, wants to win all 6 of his motos this week, a feat that has not been done in the expert level since 1995. And it's even more interesting considering Hampshire has never won a moto or a championship here at Loretta's until this year. It is truly a week that can change careers, heck, change lives for not only the rider, but his family. Hampshire, who at one point was believed to be headed toward a scholarship as a college baseball pitcher, has now decided to focus on his family's hobby of motocross racing, training with the great Tim Ferry, who's won a whole bunch of titles here at Loretta's and is a professional champion as well, and holding up well under the pressure of Rensland and Plessinger. And Plessinger also has a factory ride with Yamaha as a pro already locked up, as does Hampshire with Honda. Rensland on the number 3, sandwiched right between them, trying to show that he has the stuff also to be a future pro superstar. So there's much on the line for all 3 of these riders. Hampshire trying to be perfect for the first time in nearly 20 years during the week. Rensland trying to prove he can beat him. And Plessinger not want to be pushed around either. Unfortunately for Plessinger, his luck would go south. He had a big crash early in the week, resulted in a broken toe. You see him hobbling back to his bike when he had another crash here. It's tough to get back to the machine. Racing luck was not on the side of the young man from Ohio. So now that leads 2 riders to battle for this final expert class win in the 250 class in the final moto. Hampshire, unchallenged all week, now dealing with some serious pressure from Rensland. By the way, Hampshire running that 22 as a gesture toward Chad Reed, the veteran and multi-time Supercross and motocross champion who let the young man from Florida ride and train at his house all summer to prepare for this event. And he would do the number 22 proud, as Rensland brought everything he could at him to try to take the lead and break his undefeated moto streak. Hampshire, who again had never won a championship here, was able to respond like a veteran. Now, you know these guys are good when they're getting deep into lap traffic. Again, every class, the riders have to qualify. So even if you're the local hotshot at your track, you still have to be the best in your area, then the best in your region to make it here. And even still, those riders find themselves going a lap down with the way that Hampshire and Rensland were pushing the pace. Rensland is out of New Jersey. His family has purchased land in Florida so he can ride and train year-round in the Sunshine State, just like Hampshire does with help from Tim Ferry, Chad Reed, and the rest. It's a big investment for a family to buy and build a track a good 1,000 miles from home. But all that hard work and sacrifice is to pay off here. Late in the moto, their final moto, they'd be battling each other. The lap traffic gets to Hampshire. He gets bumped off the track. Rensland down to the inside, trying to find a pass. Cannot make it happen. The relentlessness of the 3 and the calm, cool conviction of the 22. It's this close at the line. Hampshire will take the moto win. A perfect sweep, 6 motos, 6 wins, 2 titles, the AMA Horizon Award, a factory Honda ride. This is the place where dreams are made. You'll see R.J. Hampshire in Supercross in 2015. But he won't forget where he came from, inviting his whole family on up to the podium to celebrate. Motocross is truly a family sport. Racer TV is brought to you by Rocky Mountain ATV MC. and by Amsoil. More coverage coming your way for the Rocky Mountain ATV MC Amateur National here at Loretta Lynn Ranch. Jason Wygant here to give you the call. This is what it looks like from high up top. The podium there is in the lower part of your screen. The top half is the famous billboards where they have photos of the top riders who have come through here in years past, the likes of Ricky Carmichael, James Stewart, Kevin Windham, and plenty of others. And those riders all had success in this class on 65cc bikes when they were coming through the ranks. 65s are key. The 50cc machines run automatic transmissions. When you get to the 65, you're on much more similar equipment to a full-size motorcycle with a clutch and gears. Some make the transition well, some don't. Jet Reynolds, the number one, has. He was a 50cc hero. Now he's dominating on 65s. But a crash in Moto 1 leaves him 9th. While Matt Leblanc, yes, Matt LeBlanc, how you doing? Doing well. He grabs the first Moto win. Reynolds, though, would come back. Living up to that first name, Jet, when he had speed no one could match, he would come back to win the final 2 motos. Then everyone else had bad luck. And his 9-1-1 finishes, no emergencies there. It was enough to take another championship back to Bakersfield, California, which has suddenly become America's hotbed of young motocross riders. Now, on the complete opposite side of the spectrum, the Masters 50-plus class. Here you're going to get a lot of workaday heroes and ex-professionals looking for their last chance at glory. This is the oldest age class here at this Amateur National, which means nobody but nobody wants it worse than a rider on the gate here. They know that when their opportunity comes to win the Masters division, it might never come back around again. They'll never be the young rider in their class once more, and that's why they go for it. You could not tell the difference between the riders who are over the age of 50 and the riders who are 16 years old. Earl May, the number 82, battling it out with the 31 of Rodney Smith, multi-time Grand National cross-country champion, also a former World Grand Prix Moto winner. There's May there in the center of the screen. He would take the championship back to Florida. He rides and trains for Ricky Carmichael. Pretty good company to keep. Smith would finish up second. Let's go to Supermini. This is probably the most loaded of all the mini cycle classes. You start those 50cc classes onto the 65s and the 85s. These are essentially the 85s with punched out motors, 105cc, and a little bit larger wheels, so they can go a lot faster through the rough stuff. Almost impossible to keep up with how much talent is in this division. The number 62, Mitchell Falk, out front. You're also looking at riders like Tanner Stack, Austin Forkner, Sean Cantrell, Chase Sexton, Jordan Bailey. Any one of them has the talent and potential to win motos and the Supermini title. Sexton there in second with Cantrell behind him, applying pressure on the leader, Falk. Bad start for Austin Forkner on the 21. He's perhaps the biggest name in the class after winning the Supermini class the last 2 years at the Monster Energy Cup in Las Vegas. Forkner's speed would eventually carry him all the way to the number 1 spot, but then he would crash. Similar story for Chase Sexton, who went down while leading. Sean Cantrell able to pick up the pieces. Kawasaki rider out of California would take the first moto win. That was probably the most exciting moto of the week. Moto 2, Mitchell Falk would take the win. Moto 3, Austin Forkner would come back, take the win. There's Cantrell celebrating that spectacular first moto win to see all those guys back to battle next year. They've got a few seasons left as amateurs. When they're done, they might be racing this class, 450A. We mentioned Luke Rensland earlier. He's got that number 1 plate because he won the championship a year ago. Here's what he looks like on the big bike. Big showdown with the Kawasaki rider, the 88 of Chris Aldridge. Now, we talked quite a bit about Plessinger and Hampshire and Rensland earlier. Aldridge was the one coming in perhaps with the most hype of anyone in these A classes. Struggled all week long, though. Eventually, Rensland was able to get by him. After finishing third in Moto 1, he beat him in Moto number 2 to take the victory. Nick Gaines, also a Kawasaki rider here in the 71, was in the hunt. He finished second in Moto number 2. So the championship fight is on in the third and final moto. Rensland and Aldridge getting out together and ready to duke it out. Now remember, Rensland had played cat and mouse with RJ Hampshire in that 250A third moto. Now it was his turn to lead and try to let Aldridge find a way around The lessons he learned in that battle with Hampshire obviously paid off. He knew exactly what he needed to do, make that Yamaha wide. Goes on to take the moto win, and with it, the 458 championship for the second year in a row. Like we said earlier, that will be enough to secure a Yamaha support ride. It's been a year in the making for him. That's going to wrap up our coverage from the 33rd Annual AMA Amateur National Motocross Championship here at Loretta Lynn Ranch. Try to remember some of the names you heard today. They are future superstars of the sport. Even if they don't eventually make it to the top step of the Supercross or Motocross professional podium, they'll never forget the time that they spent during their summers as a kid, racing against the best in the world, and doing it with their family by their side. For everyone at Racer TV, congratulations for everyone who qualified for this event. Simply making it makes you a true champion. I'm Jason Wygant. Thanks for watching. We'll see you next year.